Becky Christopherson, Violin Guru here. Thank you so much for clicking through and taking the time to watch my video. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, since I don't expect you to buy your violin lessons or to study with just anyone. Both of my parents are musicians. My father has degrees mostly in music education with bassoon as his main instrument, and my mother has her degrees in music education with violin as her main instrument and piano as a strong secondary instrument. My father also has a PhD in African ethnomusicology, which he got back in the days when ethnomusicology was barely a field, the study of music of other cultures. So they went to Africa when I was a very young child with the Peace Corps, where they taught at the University of Ghana, and my father collected field research on African tribal music on this huge reel-to-reel machine. And while we were there, his professor thought it would be great to bring a 1/16 size violin for me. And my mother had learned about the Suzuki Method shortly before we went to Africa. So she had a child, she had a violin, and she had a method. My fate was sealed. So I started playing the violin when I was 2.5. And then when we moved back to the States, I started piano when I was about 3.5. I had a tough time with music though. It really wasn't my first love, and I really hated practicing. I got very efficient at practicing since I didn't want to get yelled at in my lessons for being unprepared, but I also didn't want to spend hours practicing. And I also got good at sight reading in case I didn't quite pull off enough practice. I could sight read in my lessons. But in spite of all of my struggles with music, there were a few bright spots. I played in the youth orchestra in my town, and I loved it. It really kept me going. I loved the music, I loved the experience of being in an orchestra and hearing all the parts being played around me. I also got to study with Dr. Suzuki himself when my mother and I went to Japan when I was 12. He taught me the Allegro by Fiocco that is in Suzuki Book 6, and we worked hard on our flexible finger motion. I was also there for the beginning of the Suzuki movement in America, where most children were playing outside with balls or whatever most children did. I was sitting at teacher tables with my mother while everybody was trying to figure out how to adapt this great new approach to music education to American culture. What was the role of the parent? How do you teach a 3-year-old to hold the bow? Do you have to rearrange the left hand when you start to do vibrato? People were picking up knives and forks and using them as violins and bows as they explored all the possibilities of bringing such a complicated instrument to young children. And of course, there were the Suzuki Institutes where I had some of my most inspired teachers. And it is their inspiration that I bring to Violin Guru Online. They were the ones that put purses on my arm so I could feel the weight of the bow arm. And they're the ones that made up games and stories about the music that we were playing that ignited my imagination and helped me form a more positive relationship with music. Then I went to college, and honestly, I majored in music because there wasn't anything else I particularly wanted to do. But I really learned to play the violin when I started taking my Suzuki teacher training through the Suzuki Association of the Americas. We broke down how to play the violin in minute detail and how to communicate how to play the violin, how to create games, how to create exercises, how to make it accessible and easy for every student of every ability level. I even went back to have a lesson with my college professor, and he was amazed at how much better I had gotten since I graduated from college. I didn't tell him how. So then I started teaching. I started teaching originally when I was in college at my mother's program at Capital University. She put me in charge of the music reading program, and I developed such a stringent curriculum that when I finally moved to the East Coast, my kids and I made t-shirts that said, I survived Miss Becky's reading class. When I moved to the East Coast, it was to be the music director of a 350-student school at the tender age of 26. I learned a lot there about what not to do, but I also realized that I was good at business and that I greatly enjoyed the business of music. And I realized the potential of a big music school that was well run, that also understood the potential of young children when taught well through the Suzuki Method. So I left after a year and I started the Suzuki Music School of Westport in Connecticut. And I taught almost 1,000 children there through group classes and private lessons. And I learned how to manage a nonprofit business, how to manage a board of directors, and how to serve demanding clients. Then after about a decade, I left and moved one town away and started the Talent Education Suzuki School, which we call TESS for short. This was a for-profit venture, so I got even better at business and learning how to run a profitable business. And I learned faculty management, and of course got better at teaching and taught even more children. I taught a few adults along the way too, and found that the Suzuki Method serves them just as well as it serves children, although a bit adapted. As I was developing these schools, I went out and listened to a lot of fabulous live music. Being so close to New York, a lot of the New York musicians would come up to Connecticut, and I heard performances that changed my life. I remember one particular performance. I was so moved by the presentation of a Dean Martin song that I ran out of the venue in the pouring rain. We had a glorious thunderstorm that night, and I went running to my studio at 1 o'clock in the morning, wanting for the first time in my life to desperately make my own music. So it's been a long journey for me and my violin, but I'm happy to say we're in a great place now. Now I have so much to practice for all of my performances and gigs and symphony gigs that I actually have to rotate over a 2-day period all of my pieces, which has made me even more efficient at practice, and I'm happy to share some of those hacks with you through the video series. So I started Violin Guru Online to share my love of music and playing the violin with an international audience. I see other teachers teaching and they make it so hard. I feel sorry for the students when I watch them because I know it can be so much easier. Now, I'm not going to tell you ever that playing the violin is easy, because it isn't. But there are certainly ways to make it easier through the way you think about it, the way you practice it, the way you break it down into small steps with lots of repetition and do them over and over and over again. You get great results that way, and learning theory research backs me up on this. I see self-taught people posting videos to the Facebook pages, and they're struggling and they want to be good and they want that positive feedback, but frankly, they really just aren't very good. And what they really need is a compassionate and empathetic teacher to help them build their skill, not to criticize them and break them down. We're all too used to being competent at things for that by the time we're adults, but just to show them an easier, better way to get the results that they want. Some of the adult students I've taught really wanted to play with others and share their music with friends and family, but they never felt confident and they never felt like they were quite good enough to go public with their music. And after a few months of lessons with me, they started to see that that was indeed going to be a possibility. I hope that you'll give me the privilege of joining your musical journey and making it as easy and as accessible as possible by clicking through to either a video product or signing up for lessons. The Violin Guru online videos are designed to be an accelerated program compared to weekly lessons, but they still allow you to move at your own pace. So, if you understand and master a concept before a week is up, then please go on and continue your progress. But if something is hard or you just didn't have a good practice week, no worries. You don't have to go to a lesson for which you are unprepared. You can just spend a few more days at that level, practicing with your teacher every day, and then move on when you're ready. I don't depend on talent, so this series and these lessons don't depend on your talent. It doesn't matter if you're talented or not. If you are, of course, you'll learn more quickly and easily, but if you're not, you're still going to get great results. I have never depended on talent of my students to get great results. If you are a very beginner, you're going to want to get violin tapes to put on your violin to show you where your fingers can go. You're going to want the Suzuki Book 1 and the recording. Make sure you get the revised edition of Suzuki Book 1. And for the recording, you can either get a CD or you can download it electronically. And everybody should have a tuner app. You can get one for free easily, and it's great for making sure that your violin is in tune before you start practicing, but also for helping you work on playing in tune as you go. So the Suzuki Method originally relied on by-ear training in the beginning, with reading being introduced later, partially because we were teaching young children who really couldn't read anything anyway, but also because music truly is a language. If I were going to introduce you to a language that had an alphabet that was completely different than your own, and I gave you a book, and I said, start learning this language, and you weren't able to hear what that alphabet sounded like, you wouldn't have any idea where to start. Music is an oral art, so we are still going to start by ear. It's also easier when you're not trying to interpret symbols and make good sound at the same time. That's just way too much to think about at once, especially in the beginning. But every 3 videos or so, we will stop and do a note reading video that explains the symbols and presents the symbols for the material that we have played on the violin. And you do have your Suzuki book as a reference, so by the time you're halfway through, you will be able to reference the book as well as the recording to learn new pieces. And if you don't want to do the Suzuki book, that's fine. In the videos, all I do is I cover the technical teaching points of each song. So if you don't want to bother with the repertoire, you have other songs that you'd rather learn, that's great. You can still just do the technical exercises with me and make sure that you have a solid foundation for what you're doing on your violin, regardless of the repertoire you want to play. Whether it's classical, fiddle, or rock, the techniques that I'm teaching you will make you a better violinist. So this is a greatly adapted Suzuki method to accommodate the learning styles and practice habits of an adult rather than a child, as well as the education that you've already had. And you know, I am sure that study with a qualified teacher can cost anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. And these lessons, these videos, represent about 12 lessons worth of information, but at a fraction of the price. So you're getting the same knowledge, but in half the time and less than half the cost. So far, the Violin Guru online products are beginning violin for those who are just getting started, or maybe played for a year in public school and you don't really remember anything. A violin refresher course for those of you who played as children and remember a little bit, but you're still not really sure or confident in what you're playing. A note reading only series, and technique master classes that focus simply on tone or intonation or shifting or vibrato, things like that. And of course, there are new products being added all the time. So check back frequently to see if there's something new for you here. I have a unique offer since this is a brand new endeavor for me. I am offering 2 free internet lessons with your first purchase. So you can check in with me, you can play for me, and I'll give you positive reinforcement as well as constructive feedback on how you can improve what you're doing. And of course, all of my students at any time can send me emails with questions, can send me a short video clip with questions, and I will provide feedback within 24 hours and help you on your journey. I am also offering, of course, the lowest price there's going to be. You know that Violin Guru Online is new, and as it grows in popularity, as people find out about me, the price is going to go up. So I hope that you'll take advantage of the low introductory pricing and the 2 free internet lessons and sign up today. Purchase the video of your choice or sign up for ongoing internet lessons. And I am so pleased and privileged to help you with your journey. Thanks and happy practice.